Have you ever wondered who is quietly draining the life out of you without ever asking for permission? Not with cruelty, not with violence, but with neediness, chaos, guilt, or charm. Every day, a little bit more of your energy slips away, not because you're weak, but because you were taught to be good. From a young age, we were told to be kind, to help, to share, to care. We were praised for being generous, applauded for putting others first, and celebrated for having a big heart. But there's something they forgot to teach us, something essential, something sacred. Not everyone deserves your kindness, because kindness without wisdom becomes self-destruction. Compassion without clarity becomes a trap. And when you give endlessly without discernment, you don't become a savior, you become a sacrifice. There are people in this world who don't want to grow, they want attention. People who don't seek healing, they seek validation. People who don't want responsibility, they want rescuers, and the more you pour into them, the more they expect. Not out of gratitude, but out of entitlement. Until one day you realize your generosity is being used to avoid their growth. Your love is shielding them from their own consequences. Your presence is keeping them from ever facing themselves. This is where Stoicism speaks. It doesn't tell us to stop caring. It tells us to start choosing, to understand that virtue without direction can become vice, that goodness, when blind, can become a gateway to exhaustion. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." But being good doesn't mean being available to everyone. Being good means being grounded, being just, being wise. So in this journey, we will explore the 7 types of people you must be cautious with, not because you are cruel, but because you are no longer naive. This is not a call to close your heart. It is a call to protect it, to recognize that real kindness is not measured by how much you give, but by how well you discern who truly wants to rise with you and who simply wants to hold you down. If you're tired of being drained, if your good heart has become a battlefield, then it's time to see clearly, because the most powerful kindness is the one that includes yourself. Number 1, chronic complainers. We've all met them, the chronic complainers. They inhabit our workplaces, family gatherings, social circles, and even appear unexpectedly beside us at coffee shops, grocery lines, or elevators. These individuals carry their dissatisfaction as though it were a badge of honor, perpetually seeing the world through a lens clouded with endless discontent. From the moment they open their mouths, a torrent of negativity pours forth. Nothing ever good enough, nothing ever fair enough. Every circumstance a fresh grievance waiting to be voiced. It's almost as if they've forgotten, or perhaps never known, how to perceive life through a lens of appreciation or even neutrality. Instead, they view existence as a continuous battle against inconvenience, imperfection, and disappointment. Consider this. How many times have you encountered someone who, regardless of circumstance, finds something to criticize or lament? Perhaps it's a colleague who persistently grumbles about workload, office conditions, or the incompetence of management. Yet when presented with a solution or practical advice, they dismiss it swiftly, preferring instead to marinate in their dissatisfaction. Maybe it's a friend who endlessly recounts personal grievances, broken relationships, or perceived injustices without ever pausing to reflect on possible lessons or opportunities for growth hidden beneath these difficulties. This habitual complaining isn't simply an annoying trait. it carries a deeper, more insidious impact. Each complaint, each sigh of dissatisfaction, each pessimistic observation subtly corrodes the emotional and psychological environment around it. Like water dripping steadily upon stone, negativity gradually reshapes the very atmosphere it occupies, eroding the resolve and draining the optimism from everyone within reach. Yet why does this relentless complaining persist? Stoic wisdom, particularly the insights of Marcus Aurelius, offers a revealing perspective. Aurelius, a philosopher-emperor who confronted endless pressures, betrayals, and hardships, famously wrote, "The obstacle is the way." In other words, every difficulty, every inconvenience, every hardship presents itself as an opportunity, a path toward growth, resilience, and strength. This transformative perspective offers a profound contradiction to the mindset of the chronic complainer. To the complainer, obstacles are barriers, dead ends, impassable walls. They become frozen before life's minor frustrations, unable or perhaps unwilling to accept challenges as integral and enriching parts of existence. Marcus Aurelius reminds us that life itself is a series of obstacles. To complain constantly about each difficulty is to deny life's true essence. Imagine a sailor continuously lamenting the existence of waves, or a farmer cursing the arrival of the seasons. Just as the sailor must learn to navigate the waves, and the farmer must learn to work harmoniously with nature's cycles, so too must we learn to face our daily trials without constant complaint. Life is not an unbroken, smooth path. It is filled with bumps and curves, unexpected detours, and sometimes sheer cliffs we must climb. Each of these, according to the Stoics, is not just an annoyance, but a teacher in disguise. Yet the chronic complainer remains blind to these teachings. For them, comfort is paramount, and the absence of discomfort becomes a misguided goal. They fail to realize that the true nature of life is defined by contrast. Joy becomes meaningful through sorrow. Triumph gains its sweetness from adversity. Peace holds value only after conflict. The complainer, however, rejects this balance. Instead of seeking solutions or wisdom, they cling fiercely to their grievances, endlessly rehearsing their frustrations, perpetually reciting a narrative of dissatisfaction that becomes their identity. This is where your role becomes crucial. Recognizing the chronic complainer is relatively straightforward, but protecting your own energy and peace of mind from their negativity requires conscious, deliberate effort. Stoicism emphasizes the importance of guarding our internal state, our personal sanctuary of peace. You possess a limited amount of emotional energy, a reservoir that must be replenished, not depleted. Marcus Aurelius again instructs wisely, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." Your internal landscape is sacred. To preserve your emotional energy, you must set clear boundaries. Stoicism doesn't demand indifference or cruelty toward the chronic complainers around you. Rather, it encourages compassionate detachment, a calm acknowledgement of another's suffering or dissatisfaction without allowing it to seep into your own heart and mind. Picture yourself at work again, faced with the co-worker who habitually complains. You listen briefly, respectfully, yet you do not internalize their negativity. You offer practical suggestions calmly, once, maybe twice, but no more. Stoicism teaches you to recognize when your energy is better invested elsewhere. You are not obliged to accompany others down their chosen path of despair or dissatisfaction. Your responsibility lies not in transforming their worldview. This task belongs solely to them, but in safeguarding your own mental clarity and emotional equilibrium. Understand that the chronic complainer often doesn't seek solutions. What they crave is validation, acknowledgement of their victimhood. While it may seem compassionate to empathize endlessly, true compassion, in the Stoic sense, lies in helping others move towards solutions or acceptance. If they choose to ignore these pathways, your compassion then shifts toward ensuring your own emotional health. It's neither selfish nor indifferent. It's an act of wisdom and self-preservation. Boundaries are your silent guardians. They communicate to others and to yourself that your emotional state is not up for negotiation. You set clear limits, gently yet firmly, on how much complaining you tolerate, how much negativity you absorb, and how much of your precious mental real estate you dedicate to situations beyond your control. By doing so, you preserve your capacity to be genuinely supportive and present for those who truly seek growth, solutions, and positive change. Through this disciplined approach, guided by Stoic principles, you gradually become immune to the contagious nature of chronic complaint. You embody Aurelius's insight. Obstacles become your opportunities. Frustrations transform into moments of reflection and growth, and negativity becomes merely background noise rather than a defining feature of your environment. Ultimately, chronic complainers serve as powerful reminders to us all. They remind us of the danger inherent in perpetual dissatisfaction and highlight the importance of cultivating gratitude, resilience, and clarity. They teach us to embrace challenges as fundamental elements of a meaningful life rather than persistent irritations. As you navigate your journey, encountering chronic complainers along the way, remember your Stoic foundation. Embrace your boundaries, cherish your internal peace, and continue forward, knowing that you control your response, your perceptions, and your own happiness. You cannot change the chronic complainer, but in mastering your own inner world, you offer the most profound lesson of all: the quiet strength of a mind at peace amidst life's inevitable turbulence. Number 2, quitters, those who give up too easily. The journey through life is never a straight line. We walk paths riddled with unexpected twists, unpredictable turns, and obstacles that seem to appear out of nowhere. It's rarely easy, never straightforward, and inevitably we encounter difficulties. But the difference between the ones who ultimately triumph and the ones who fall by the wayside is simple yet profound: perseverance. This isn't a virtue reserved for heroes or legends. It's a quiet strength that whispers to us each time we're tempted to surrender. Hold on just a little longer. Yet there exists a group among us who have never learned to heed this whisper: the quitters, those who habitually give up at the slightest resistance. And the painful truth is this: trying to save them from themselves is one of the most exhausting and fruitless tasks we can undertake. You know them. Perhaps it's a neighbor like Thomas who decided to renovate his garage into a woodworking space, a vision he passionately described over coffee. You felt inspired, drawn into the excitement of his dream, so much so that you volunteered your own weekend to help him clear out the clutter, rip up the old floor, and even pick out fresh paint. But midway through, with barely half the job done, Thomas simply vanished from his own vision. He got tired. It got hard. The enthusiasm that once blazed brightly within him extinguished as effortlessly as a candle in the wind. And you stood there, hammer in hand, feeling more disappointed than he ever seemed to be. This isn't just about unfinished garages or abandoned hobbies. It's symbolic of a deeper pattern. Quitters lack resilience because they are addicted not to the journey, but to the fleeting thrill of new beginnings. They relish the idea of success, but recoil at the reality of struggle. And therein lies the peril of investing your own energy in their fleeting passions. To you, offering help seems noble and kind, a chance to uplift and inspire. But for them, your effort is a mere buoy, something to momentarily cling to before letting go once the waters get rough again. The philosopher Seneca wisely said, "Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body." Each obstacle we face is a necessary trial, refining our character and sharpening our resolve. Yet quitters see obstacles not as tests, but as insurmountable walls. They rarely look for ladders or doorways. Instead, they glance once, assume defeat and quickly turn away, seeking another path that promises ease and immediate gratification. This perpetual avoidance of hardship creates a cycle of unfulfilled dreams and incomplete endeavors. Their lives become museums filled with unfinished paintings, beautiful ideas half-realized, gathering dust in forgotten corners. It is tempting, almost instinctive, to rescue quitters from this cycle. After all, compassion moves us to help, but compassion must be tempered by wisdom. True Stoicism teaches us the art of discernment, the ability to recognize when our help empowers someone and when it inadvertently reinforces their weaknesses. By constantly stepping in to carry the burdens quitters refuse to shoulder, we don't strengthen their resolve, we weaken it further. We unknowingly become accomplices in their ongoing surrender. Imagine investing your time, your resources, and your emotional energy into someone who habitually retreats at the first sign of difficulty. You clear the path ahead of them, remove obstacles from their view, and even carry their burdens alongside your own. But each time, without fail, they abandon the journey the moment your hands tire or the terrain becomes rough. Your effort, though noble, becomes wasted energy, depleting your own spirit without enriching theirs. Instead of teaching them endurance, your kindness teaches dependence. Instead of resilience, they learn reliance on others' strength. You inadvertently become the bridge that they refuse to cross on their own 2 feet. There comes a moment when we must recognize that helping someone who doesn't wish to help themselves is not kindness. It's enabling. It's not support. It's sabotage. Both to their potential growth and to your own inner peace. True help doesn't shield others from struggle. It guides them toward the courage and self-belief they must cultivate within themselves. And courage, as Seneca reminds us, doesn't grow in comfortable ease. It blossoms in the face of adversity. What quitters truly need is not endless external support, but a transformation within, a fundamental shift from dependence to responsibility. And that transformation cannot be handed to them. It must be chosen. It must be earned through the grit of personal struggle. Every great story of triumph is written by individuals who once stood at the brink of surrender, but chose instead to persevere. These stories resonate deeply because they are earned, they are authentic, and they teach us that victory isn't sweet because of the ease of achievement, but precisely because of the hardship overcome. When dealing with quitters, we must set healthy, loving boundaries. Boundaries protect not only our energy, but also offer them the clarity they so desperately need. Instead of carrying their burdens, point them toward their own strength. Encourage them gently but firmly to face what frightens them, to stay with discomfort until they learn its hidden lessons. If they still choose to retreat, honor their choice, but refuse to retreat alongside them. You cannot force determination or perseverance into someone else's heart. You can only inspire it through your example and then allow them the space to either follow or remain behind. Protecting yourself from the exhausting cycle of supporting those unwilling to support themselves is not an act of selfishness. It's an act of wisdom, self-care, and genuine kindness. By reserving your energy for those who truly seek growth, those who stumble yet rise again, those who falter yet choose to continue, you become a beacon for true resilience. You become proof that perseverance is possible, that difficulties indeed strengthen the mind, and that struggle, far from something to fear, is something to embrace as the forge in which character is shaped. Seneca's words echo once more, a timeless reminder. Difficulties strengthen the mind as labor does the body. Let these words guide your decisions. Invest your precious time and energy wisely. Do not despair over those who willingly forfeit their potential, but instead focus your attention on those who, despite setbacks and hardships, refuse to abandon their path. Your strength is finite. Share it with those willing to build their own. In the end, true compassion is not about saving people from life's trials. It's about empowering them to face those trials head-on, to teach them that real strength is born not from constant rescue, but from the quiet, determined choice to persevere, especially when it would be easier to quit. Number 3. Doubtful people. Have you ever seen someone standing on the edge of greatness yet too afraid to step forward? They have all the potential in the world, brilliance shimmering like a distant star, visible yet always out of reach. They possess intelligence, sensitivity, talent, and vision, everything needed to craft a meaningful life. But strangely enough, their most significant barrier isn't external. It's the haunting whisper of their own self-doubt. These are the doubtful people, those who live trapped behind invisible walls of their own making, convinced that they are not good enough, smart enough, or brave enough to truly step into the arena of life. Doubt is a shadow that can linger long after darkness has faded, a silent echo in the quietest moments, a questioning voice when decisions demand clarity. Doubt itself is not inherently destructive. It can even serve a purpose, prompting necessary reflection and caution. But when doubt becomes chronic, relentless, and unchecked, it becomes a relentless chain binding a person to stagnation. These people find themselves perpetually caught between dreams and action, between hope and execution, forever imprisoned in their minds. Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "First say to yourself what you would be, then do what you have to." A do. His wisdom cuts directly to the heart of the matter. Life is not about waiting until you're absolutely certain, nor is it about lingering indefinitely at the crossroads of indecision. It demands a decisive step, a commitment made boldly and sincerely. But for those ensnared by doubt, the courage to take that step feels monumental, even overwhelming. Imagine a friend, let's call him Andrew, who carries tremendous artistic potential. His sketches fill journals, his canvases capture emotion with rare depth, and yet each time the moment arrives to share his creations with the world, Andrew retreats. His reason, a ceaseless stream of doubts. What if my work isn't good enough? What if I'm not really talented? What if people laugh at me? You see him stuck, not for lack of talent or resources, but paralyzed by a single question mark that drowns out every affirmation. You've encouraged him gently, offered support, praise, resources, and opportunities. Yet every time Andrew must confront his fears, he hesitates, withdraws, and recedes deeper into the comfort of his familiar doubts. This hesitance doesn't stem from laziness, nor does it come from unwillingness or indifference. Rather, it's rooted in the painful insecurity of a person who, deep down, believes he lacks fundamental worthiness. Doubtful people constantly wrestle with the specter of inadequacy. They fear failure, not simply as a potential outcome, but as evidence confirming their deepest anxieties, that they truly are as inadequate as they fear. Yet here is the painful truth that every Stoic must confront. You cannot save someone who will not risk saving themselves. You cannot carry someone else's burden of self-belief, nor can you fight the internal battles that they alone must face. The doubtful person has constructed a labyrinth within their own mind, and no matter how many torches of encouragement you offer, only they can find their path out. When you invest your emotional resources in someone who doubts perpetually, you might think you're doing good by patiently coaxing, guiding, and hand-holding. However, what you're truly doing is reinforcing their dependency on external validation. With every comforting reassurance, you unintentionally strengthen their belief that they are not capable of trusting their own judgment, instincts, or abilities. Their self-doubt grows precisely because they never develop the internal mechanisms necessary to confront and conquer their fears independently. Stoicism teaches us the profound importance of self-reliance. Epictetus reminds us constantly that true freedom comes from understanding clearly what we control and what we do not. And while we can encourage, inspire, and gently guide, we cannot force another person to see their intrinsic worth or to take the necessary steps forward. Ultimately, each individual must decide for themselves if they will remain captive to doubt or if they will courageously face uncertainty, risking vulnerability and failure to find out who they truly are. Each of us has limited energy, attention, and emotional bandwidth. These resources, once spent, cannot easily be replenished. By repeatedly investing in the chronically doubtful, you diminish your own vitality, drain your emotional reservoir, and gradually lose the capacity to support those who genuinely need and actively use your help. More importantly, you risk fostering resentment toward the doubtful person, a bitterness born from repeated disappointment and the painful realization that your efforts do not yield change. The cycle continues endlessly. You give, they retreat. You encourage, they withdraw, leaving both parties emotionally exhausted and the situation unchanged. Epictetus wisely taught that each person's first responsibility is clarity within themselves. Before action, before decisions, before setting lofty goals, one must clarify deeply and profoundly who they wish to become. Doubtful people skip this crucial introspection, becoming paralyzed by ambiguous fears instead of rooted firmly in clear intentions. Your role is not to clarify for them, but to gently point the way, nudging them toward the profound realization that clarity and self-belief are internal decisions that only they can make. Ultimately, choosing not to shoulder their responsibility isn't harsh or unkind. It's the greatest kindness. It offers them the crucial space they need to grow, the solitude necessary for meaningful introspection, and the dignity of owning their progress. For true transformation only occurs when a doubtful person finally chooses to confront their fear directly. They must take the uncertain step forward without guarantees, without certainty, knowing they might falter, but deciding to move anyway. So, as you navigate relationships with those wrapped tightly in self-doubt, remember the Stoic wisdom that reminds us of our boundaries. You can support without sacrificing yourself. You can inspire without owning someone else's destiny. Your journey, after all, is about more than guiding the doubtful. It's about nurturing your own growth, strengthening your internal resilience, and safeguarding your emotional energy for those moments and people who not only need your support, but will actively use it to evolve. Let your compassion guide your encouragement, but let your wisdom remind you of limits. Let Epictetus's ancient words ring clear. First say to yourself what you would be. Remind the doubtful gently that only they can define who they are becoming. And when they finally decide to step forward into uncertainty and self-belief, let them discover for themselves the strength, courage, and capability that were always there, hidden beneath layers of doubt, awaiting only their brave decision to finally begin. Number 4. Victim-minded people. There is a kind of pain in this world that does not come from injury, loss, or betrayal, but from the quiet and persistent belief that life owes us something, that if we are suffering, then surely someone else must be to blame. This is the world of the victim-minded person. Not someone who has been victimized, but someone who chooses to remain a victim in their own mind. This distinction matters more than we often realize, because in the Stoic worldview, it's not our circumstances that break us, it's how we choose to see them. We arrive at this point in our journey from the shadows of self-doubt. First, we met those who constantly complained, clinging to negativity as their identity. Then, we moved past those who gave up at the slightest resistance. And now, we encounter another shape of suffering, the person who refuses to take responsibility for their life. Their pain is real, yes, but so is their refusal to grow. This is not cruelty, this is clarity. You will know these people by how often they point outward when they are hurting. They speak in a language of blame, wrapped in stories where life is always unfair. People are always cruel, and their own misfortunes are the result of forces beyond their control. They wear their suffering not as a wound they hope to heal, but as armor to deflect the weight of personal accountability. To them, the world is not something to navigate with courage, but a battlefield where they are always under siege. But what happens when you try to help someone who refuses to stand up? You might think you're being kind, that you're offering support, but slowly, quietly, you'll begin to carry their burdens as your own. You'll make excuses on their behalf. You'll drain your energy into a well that was never meant to be filled. You'll find yourself walking through their storm while they sit beneath the shelter of your concern, unwilling to move. And the truth is, no one can be helped until they decide they want to be. You cannot free someone who is comfortable in their chains. The victim-minded person isn't just wounded, they're addicted to the wound. The narrative of injustice gives them identity. It gives them validation. It excuses them from effort. But that comfort is a slow death. Because when you give your power away to circumstances, you also give away the possibility of change. Epictetus said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of things." This is one of the sharpest swords in Stoic philosophy. It cuts through the illusion that life must be fair in order for us to be strong. It removes the crutches we use to justify staying small. The truth is, life does not promise justice, ease, or recognition. But it does offer us a single, untouchable freedom, the power to decide how we respond. You see, the victim-minded person believes their suffering is unique, that they alone were dealt an unfair hand. But if they paused long enough to look around, they'd see every person is fighting a battle the world does not see. Pain is not proof of exception. It is the common thread of our humanity. The difference lies in what we do with it. A Stoic does not deny pain. We do not pretend misfortune is pleasant, but we meet it with dignity. We rise not because we were spared hardship, but because we refuse to let it define us. The Stoic path does not ask, "Why me?" It asks instead, "What now?" Because there is always a next step, even if it's small. There is always a choice, even in chaos. And it is in those tiny moments of decision that we reclaim our power. Now let me say something difficult but necessary. You do not owe your life to those who refuse to change. Compassion does not mean self-sacrifice. Patience does not mean enabling. Sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is to let them fall, to let them sit with the consequences of their mindset. Because it is in that silence, in that space of discomfort, that true reflection can happen. When you stop rescuing them, they may finally begin the journey inward, or they may not. But either way, it is not your responsibility to carry what they refuse to release. This is one of the hardest boundaries to draw, especially if the person is someone you love. But a Stoic understands that love without wisdom is not love, it's attachment. And attachment that denies truth will eventually become resentment. So be honest with yourself. Are you helping, or are you holding them back from the discomfort that could change them? True change comes from within. It begins the moment a person stops blaming and starts asking deeper questions. What am I holding on to? What belief is keeping me here? What part of this pain is mine to own? These are the questions that transform victims into warriors, and no one can ask them on another's behalf. So if you are walking alongside someone trapped in victimhood, do not waste your breath trying to convince them to see what they refuse to see. Let your life be the mirror. Let your strength be the quiet example. Let your peace be the contrast to their turmoil. And when they are ready, truly ready, they will remember what it looked like to stand tall, and they will rise too. But until that moment, protect your energy, guard your clarity, be discerning in your compassion, because every ounce of effort you pour into the unwilling is an ounce stolen from your own potential. And the world needs more people who are awake, not exhausted from trying to save those who sleep. In the end, the Stoic does not look to be a savior, but a student of life. We do not seek to control others, but to master ourselves. We do not force growth, we invite it. And above all, we do not carry those who choose not to walk. Instead, we walk our own path, steady and strong, guided not by emotion, but by virtue, by clarity, by truth. So let them speak their stories of blame. Let them shout into the wind if they must. But do not lose yourself trying to soften their silence. Life will teach them what they refuse to learn from you. Let it, and walk on. Because freedom does not come from being rescued. It comes from realizing you were never truly trapped, only convinced that you were. And when that realization dawns, the victim disappears. What remains is a human being fully awake, ready at last to begin again. Number 5. Self-righteous people. There is a subtle arrogance that walks among us, cloaked not in cruelty, but in conviction. It is not loud or violent, but firm, immovable, and quietly toxic. This is the person who believes they are always right, not out of malice, but out of a deeply embedded belief that their perspective is the highest truth. Their self-assurance becomes a fortress, one so thick that even the clearest reasoning cannot penetrate it. And within those walls, they are safe. Not from harm, but from growth. We've come far on this journey of human psychology through the Stoic lens. From the complainer who clings to words, to the quitter who surrenders to hardship, to the victim who rejects responsibility. Now we arrive at a different kind of resistance, one that hides behind confidence. The self-righteous person does not appear weak at first glance. In fact, they may appear incredibly strong. But their strength is rigid, not resilient. Their certainty is not clarity. It's stubbornness dressed as wisdom. This is the paradox. While some suffer from chronic self-doubt, these individuals suffer from an excess of certainty. They do not question their own conclusions. They do not pause to consider another angle. To them, listening is not a practice of understanding. It is a formality, a pause in the conversation while they wait for their turn to speak. When you challenge their views, they don't reflect. They recoil. When you offer an insight, they filter it through layers of defensiveness until it matches what they already believe. This kind of thinking may seem harmless on the surface. After all, what's wrong with confidence? But true Stoic confidence is humble. It is rooted in reason and ever open to correction. Marcus Aurelius himself, the Emperor of Rome, wrote, "If anyone can refute me, show me I'm making a mistake or looking at things from the wrong perspective, I'll gladly change. It's the truth I'm after, not ego." That is not just humility, that is strength. Compare that to the self-righteous mind. It is not seeking truth, it is seeking to be right. Even when the facts are clear, even when the logic is sound, even when life itself is providing lesson after lesson, still, they will cling to their viewpoint, like a drowning man clings to a rock in a rising tide. Because to them, admitting they are wrong feels like death, a collapse of identity rather than an act of liberation. And here's the deeper cost. When someone believes they are always right, they stop learning, they stop evolving, because growth requires error. Progress demands reflection. Every lesson in life begins with the humility to say, maybe I was wrong. But for the self-righteous, this phrase is foreign. To them, compromise is weakness, openness is danger, and feedback is attack. Now, you may feel the urge to argue with them, to show them the flaw in their logic, to hold up the mirror and make them see. But Stoicism teaches us restraint, not because silence is easier, but because it is wiser. What good is it to waste your breath on someone whose ears are closed? What purpose does it serve to feed energy into debates where no hearts are open? The Stoic response to self-righteousness is not debate, but detachment, not in the cold sense of indifference, but in the warm wisdom of understanding what is and is not yours to carry. You are not responsible for someone else's awakening. You are not obligated to change their mind. Life will do that far better than your words ever could, because eventually, the world has a way of humbling even the most stubborn minds. Experience is a quiet teacher. It does not shout, it does not force, but it repeats its lessons until they are heard. When the self-righteous person experiences enough friction, when reality contradicts their beliefs enough times, something will crack. And in that moment, perhaps for the first time, the light of truth will enter. But that moment must come from within. It cannot be pushed from the outside. So what should you do when you encounter such a person? Step back. Do not waste your spirit. In the tug-of-war of egos, preserve your peace. Speak your truth once, clearly, calmly, without attachment to the outcome. And then step aside. Let life take it from there, because the more you push, the more they will resist. But if you become the quiet example, if you embody wisdom rather than argue for it, they may begin to notice. Not today, not tomorrow, but eventually. You see, Stoicism does not concern itself with winning arguments. It concerns itself with mastering the self. The truly wise person does not need to be right. They need only be aligned with reality. And reality always wins, eventually. So instead of proving yourself, focus on improving yourself. Instead of convincing others, commit to your own clarity. This is the quiet revolution of the Stoic life. It is not about shouting louder. It is about living better. It is about choosing peace over pride, learning over defending, presence over proving. And when you walk this path, you will find that the need to argue fades, because you no longer seek to control others. You are too busy cultivating your own garden. To the self-righteous person, life is a battlefield of ideas, one they must dominate. But to the Stoic, life is a dialogue with truth, a conversation that deepens with each new realization. One path leads to isolation, the other to wisdom. One keeps you locked in the illusion of certainty, the other frees you into the humility of learning. So when you meet someone who cannot be corrected, let them be. Let your calmness speak where your words no longer can. Let your clarity be a contrast to their confusion. And above all, never let their stubbornness become your stress. Your peace is not worth that price. In the end, you cannot change someone who is committed to being right more than they are committed to being wise. But you can choose not to mirror them. You can choose to be the presence that listens, reflects, and lets go. And in doing so, you rise above the noise, not in superiority, but in serenity. Remember, the truly strong are not those who cling to being right, but those who welcome the chance to be wrong and grow because of it. They are the ones who turn correction into elevation, who turn failure into insight, who meet every challenge not with resistance, but with the sacred words of Marcus Aurelius echoing in their heart. If someone can prove me wrong and show me my mistake or misunderstanding, I will gladly change, for it is the truth I seek. That is not just the Stoic way, that is the way forward. Number 6, desperate people. There is a kind of heaviness that follows certain people, not because life has been particularly cruel to them, but because they have not yet learned how to respond to that cruelty with discipline and clarity. These are the desperate ones, not merely struggling, not merely grieving, but living in a constant storm of reaction and chaos. Their choices are impulsive, their emotions volatile, and their lives like wildfires, consuming everything and everyone in reach. And perhaps most dangerously, They do not suffer alone. Desperate people have a gravitational pull. They draw others into their chaos, not always maliciously, often unknowingly, but the result is the same. You find yourself entangled in their whirlwind, trying to help, trying to rescue, trying to hold up what they continue to break. But here lies the hard truth. If you are not careful, their storm will become yours. This is not a call for coldness. It is a call for wisdom, because desperation, when left unchecked, becomes manipulation. It distorts reality. It makes irrational decisions feel urgent. Destructive behavior feel justified. And when you are close to someone in that state, especially someone you care about, it becomes easy to lose your balance trying to steady theirs. Let me be clear. There is a difference between a person going through a hard time and a person who lives in a perpetual state of emotional urgency. One seeks understanding, the other seeks escape. One asks for support, the other demands rescue. And the desperate person rarely wants what they say they want. What they crave is not a solution. It is relief, temporary, immediate, fleeting. But at what cost? Take Sarah, for instance. On the surface, her story is sympathetic. She's short on rent, overwhelmed by life, and needs a loan just to get by. But days later, she's posting pictures from a weekend trip, smiling, sunlit, cocktails in hand. Her desperation wasn't a crisis, it was a pattern, a cycle. And in trying to help her, someone else had to sacrifice their own peace, their own finances, their own sense of stability. You see, desperation isn't just about external lack, it's an inner disorder. It's a refusal to sit with discomfort long enough to learn from it. It's a fear of consequences so deep that they keep running, even if it means running over others. But Stoicism teaches us something radical, that no amount of external rescue can fix internal disarray. The fire must be faced, not fled from. Epictetus once taught that it is not things themselves that disturb us, but our judgments about them. The desperate person, however, sees their feelings as facts. If they feel panic, then there must be a crisis. If they feel shame, then someone else must be blamed. And this becomes a dangerous filter, because in their world, emotion is justification. There is no space between stimulus and response. There is no pause, no principle, only reaction. But as a Stoic, your first duty is to protect your inner peace. Your second duty is to live by reason. So when someone else's chaos threatens to invade your calm, you must ask yourself, am I helping or am I being pulled under? Because every time you offer a quick fix to someone avoiding deep change, you delay their reckoning. And you betray your own clarity. Helping someone does not mean enabling their patterns. True help is uncomfortable. It means offering long-term solutions, not short-term relief. It means guiding someone towards self-accountability, even if it costs you their approval, because desperation will always seek the path of least resistance. It wants comfort now, not character tomorrow. And the easy answer, the handout, the rescue, the cover-up, is not kindness. It's complicity. So what can you do? First, you must see clearly. Desperate people often appear vulnerable, even innocent. But clarity demands we look beyond emotion and see the truth of behavior. Ask yourself, is this a one-time crisis or a recurring theme? Have they learned from past mistakes or simply repeated them? Are they willing to face the consequences or constantly shifting the burden to others? Second, speak with strength and softness. Offer guidance, not indulgence. Suggest a plan. Recommend a discipline. encourage therapy, offer structure, but do not give what reinforces avoidance. Say, "I'm here to support your growth, not to fund your escape." Say it with calm, with love, but say it. Because sometimes the firmest boundary is the deepest act of compassion. Third, step back when needed. Some people are not ready to heal. They are still committed to chaos. And if you stay too close, their fire will catch your life too. You cannot pour from a drained soul. And you cannot sacrifice your well-being for someone who will not take the first step toward their own. That is not Stoicism. It is martyrdom. And the Stoic path is not one of self-sacrifice for those unwilling to walk. This, of course, is hard, especially when your heart is open, especially when you believe in people's potential. But love without boundaries becomes entanglement, and empathy without wisdom becomes ruin. It is not your job to fix the world, but to offer light and protect your flame. Remember this: a Stoic offers a hand, not a crutch. We walk with others through hardship, but we do not carry them if they refuse to stand. We teach by presence, not pressure. We lead by example, not control. And most of all, we choose peace over drama, clarity over confusion, and truth over the temporary comfort of lies. Let them cry if they must. Let them scream. Let them accuse. Desperation often lashes out before it lets go. But do not take it personally. It is not a reflection of you. It is the unraveling of their own unresolved life. Your steadiness will feel like a threat to someone who lives in a storm. Your silence will feel like abandonment to someone who is addicted to noise. Let it. You are not here to save them. You are here to stand, and in your standing, in your calm, in your refusal to be pulled into their waves, you give them something they've never truly seen. A lighthouse, not a rescuer, not a shield, but a fixed point of clarity in a sea of confusion. That, more than any handout, any emotional appeasement, is the gift they truly need. Let your strength be quiet. Let your wisdom be gentle. Let your boundaries be unshakable. And trust this: when they are ready, truly ready, they will return, not with desperation, but with resolve, not with excuses, but with action. And if they never do, then at least you remained whole, intact, grounded, a soul unshaken by the storms of others. That is what it means to live as a Stoic in a desperate world, to feel but not be consumed, to care but not be controlled, to love but not at the cost of your peace, to offer guidance but never at the expense of your own path. So walk on. Let your example be the lesson. Let your strength be the message. Let your peace be the answer. Because the desperate do not need more saviors. They need something far more rare, someone who stands in calm truth and refuses to be moved. Number 7, narcissists. There is no storm more deceptive than a narcissist, no hurricane more subtle, no fire more disguised as warmth. And among all the human types we've walked through on this path, the complainers, the quitters, the victims, the self-righteous and the desperate, the narcissist stands at the edge of this spectrum like a polished mirror, smooth, alluring, reflecting light but never absorbing it. This is why they are the most dangerous, because they do not come screaming. They come smiling. They do not ask for help, they charm it out of you. And before you realize it, you are no longer walking beside them, but beneath them. Your light feeding their shadow, your kindness serving their emptiness. A narcissist doesn't just want attention. They feed on admiration, on control, on being seen as more than they are, because deep down they fear being seen for what they truly are: fragile, insecure, often empty. Their ego is a hungry ghost, always needing, never full, and they cloak this hunger in seduction, flattery, charisma, success, beauty, charm. But beneath the surface is a cold truth. They do not truly care about connection. They care about control. Unlike the desperate who act in chaos, or the self-righteous who live in illusion, the narcissist plays a strategic game. They watch, they calculate, they sense who is soft-hearted and giving, and then they move in, not like a storm, but like a song. Sweet at first, harmonious, addictive. But over time, something shifts. You begin to notice that your needs are sidelined. Your efforts go unacknowledged. Every conversation orbits around their victories, their problems, their insecurities, disguised as jokes or brilliance. If you set a boundary, it's met with outrage or guilt. If you express your hurt, they call you sensitive. If you ask for respect, they accuse you of selfishness, and perhaps the most painful part, they never thank you in a way that feels real, because narcissists are not capable of true gratitude. Not the kind that humbles itself, sees you clearly, honors your heart. Their thank you is a currency, a tactic, something used to keep you in the loop, to buy your continued loyalty. But behind it lies no genuine reflection, only consumption. This is why you feel exhausted, drained, confused, because you are pouring into a void that never gives back. You're dancing in front of a mirror, hoping it will one day dance with you. But it never will, because it is not you the narcissist loves. It is what you give them: validation, admiration, usefulness. You are a means, not an end, and this is where Stoicism speaks with cutting clarity. Epictetus once said, "We cannot control others, only ourselves." This line is not soft comfort. It is a shield. It tells us you are not here to fix a narcissist. You are not here to prove your worth to them. You are not here to sacrifice your emotional health on the altar of someone else's unhealed wounds. You are here to live wisely, to stand in your own power, to guard your peace like sacred fire. So how do we deal with the narcissist? Not with anger, not with arguments, but with something far stronger: boundaries. Not the kind you whisper, the kind you enforce. The kind that says, "I am not here to be used. I am not here to be drained. I am not here to orbit your self-image. I am my own person, and I choose what enters my life." This may trigger them. Narcissists fear boundaries because it reminds them of their limits. It cuts off their supply, so they may push back, manipulate, apologize with performance. They may say all the right things to pull you back in, but this time your eyes are open. You see, the Stoic does not hate the narcissist. We do not demonize, we understand, we observe, and we act not from emotion but from principle. Because you cannot walk the path of wisdom while being emotionally entangled with someone who only sees your value in how it serves them. So the Stoic strategy is not confrontation, it's clarity. It's choosing who enters your emotional space with intention. It's recognizing that not every charming voice deserves a seat at your table. It's understanding that your time, energy, and love are sacred resources, not bargaining chips. And yes, this is hard, especially when the narcissist is someone close, a partner, a family member, a longtime friend. But the Stoic knows proximity is not permission. Just because someone is part of your past does not mean they have to dominate your future. Love does not require self-betrayal. Loyalty does not require silence. And peace does not require permission, so speak less, observe more. When someone shows you their true nature, do not argue. Do not try to reshape it. Accept it, and then ask yourself, does this person bring me closer to peace or further from myself? The answer will be quiet. It will not shout, but it will be true. And when it comes, honor it. This is the final stop in our journey for a reason. Because narcissists are the most challenging to walk away from. They are addictive, entrancing, but they are also the ultimate test of your self-worth. They force you to ask, what is the price of being liked? What am I giving up just to stay close? Is my kindness being honored or harvested? When you choose to walk away or to set that final boundary, you may feel guilt, you may feel fear, but beneath that, listen closely, you will feel something else. Freedom, the return of your own voice, the quiet peace of self-respect, the sacred space where your soul can breathe again. This is where Stoicism leads us, not into war with others, but into harmony with ourselves, into lives where we no longer chase validation, but live in virtue, where we no longer fear being disliked, but value being whole. You are not here to be consumed. You are not here to be a mirror for someone else's vanity. You are here to live wisely, to live clearly, to live deeply. So when you see the narcissist, smiling, charming, drawing others in, do not envy them, do not hate them. Simply remember what they are and choose a different way, a quieter way, a stronger way, because your energy is sacred, your peace is powerful, and your clarity is protection. The Stoic path ends not in avoidance, but in alignment, with truth, with strength, with yourself. Let the narcissists stay in their mirrors. You have a world to walk through, with eyes wide open, heart guarded, and soul intact. That is how you end a cycle. That is how you reclaim your life, and that is how you walk on, unshaken. Final reflection. The wisdom in whom you choose to help life is short. Your energy is sacred, and the peace you cultivate inside you is worth more than any approval, any performance of kindness, or any fleeting sense of being needed. Throughout this journey, we've walked through the shadows, one by one, of the types of people who often wear masks of helplessness, confidence, charm, or despair, but who, in truth, siphon your strength. Not always intentionally, but always consistently. The chronic complainers who never act, the quitters who never try, the victims who never take responsibility, the self-righteous who never listen, the desperate who never pause, the narcissists who never see anyone but themselves, and the self-doubters who pull you into their emotional quicksand. Each one, in their own way, teaches you a vital lesson. Your kindness is powerful, but only when it's guided by clarity. Stoicism is not about becoming cold, it's about becoming clear. It is not about withdrawing from others. It's about protecting the most precious space you have, your mind, your emotions, your spirit, from being hijacked by those who refuse to govern their own. Helping others is noble, it is divine, it is human, but help becomes harm when it is offered blindly, when it replaces their responsibility with your sacrifice, when it becomes a pattern of enabling rather than empowering. So ask yourself, not out of judgment, but out of deep, conscious care, is this person truly open to change? Are they willing to face themselves, or are they simply outsourcing their burdens? Are they looking for transformation, or just another source of temporary relief? Because the Stoic knows, We are not here to save anyone. We are here to live with virtue, to serve with wisdom, and to stay grounded in what we can control. And what we can control, what we must control, is where we place our time, our attention, and our compassion. Marcus Aurelius ruled an empire and still reminded himself daily, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. This is the Stoic's compass. This is your shield. Let others take their journey. Let them wrestle with their own lessons. Step in when they're ready. Step away when they're not. Because clarity is not cruelty. Distance is not indifference. And silence is sometimes the loudest wisdom. You are not made to burn yourself out in the name of love. You are not here to be a container for other people's unresolved chaos. You are here to live deeply, love wisely, and serve consciously. So, protect your peace. Let go of what is not yours to fix. And when you give, give not out of guilt, but out of grounded truth. Let your kindness be fierce. Let your boundaries be soft. Let your soul remain untouched, because the most powerful act of love is not rescuing others from themselves. It's refusing to abandon yourself in the process, and that is Stoicism in action. That is what it means to help with wisdom. That is how you honor your one wild, sacred life.